How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ruffle Rowlett, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Now, today we have some interesting information, I would say, regarding Pokemon and also Nintendo and future consoles coming from Nintendo. So I want to go through this. There's going to be a little bit of a discussion here, so keep that in mind as you're jumping into this. It's going to be a huge discussion. I'm going to link the links to the things I'm going to talk about in the description down below, so check it out over there, guys. But either way, let's get right into this, shall we? So, Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa wants a 3DS successor. Now, this is something that we kind of already slightly knew about, because they've already talked about this earlier this year. There was talks about, like, you know, the continuation of the handheld series of Nintendo products, right? Not counting the Switch and stuff. So I want to go and discuss a little bit this, read this, and also look through some tweets from Pixelpar, and of course also what has been said by, you know, them dudes over there at Nintendo. So, let's start with this. Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa wants a 3DS successor. Nintendo CEO Shuntaro Furukawa has only been on the job a week, but he's moving full steam ahead. In an interview with Kyoto Shimbun, Furukawa stated that he would like a successor to the 3DS. Given the popularity of the Nintendo handheld, this isn't a bad move for those who are dedicated to their 3DS. On the other hand, it could be disastrous and cut into Nintendo Switch's sales. Furukawa is a great new face with Nintendo, though, and a 3DS successor could be a huge success, considering how successful the 3DS is and its superb lineup of games. According to translations, Furukawa had to say this. Mr. Furukawa is one of the belief the device still has advantages over the Switch, and as stated, Nintendo was considering various possibilities in regards to a successor for the popular handheld device. What advantages it has over Nintendo Switch is unclear, and how serious he is about a 3DS successor is not clear either. Personally, I would love to see, and then it's just like, you know, a little bit of a, you know, what they want as the people who wrote this. Will it cut into Nintendo Switch sales? So, let's talk about this, and also, like, let's take a, you know, quick look at Pixelpar's tweet here, who said, apparently Furukawa said he said in the Japanese press. Jeez, I'm having a hard time reading this. That Nintendo are considering a successor to the 3DS. Considering is an odd choice of words, as I already know it exists. Just to clarify, I'm not talking about the Nintendo Switch. Also, I don't know enough about it yet to be able to comment on whether or not it's an iteration of the Switch. So, let me explain right here. If you don't know who Pixelpar is, this guy is actually a person who leaked and actually rumored and hinted and confirmed for us Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. He knew about this several months ahead of time before the games were announced. He is credible as all hell. I love this dude. He's a legend. So, you know, just gotta give you a clarification on that. If you don't know who Pixelpar is, he is a 100% credible person. Definitely look out for what he says, because he has real info. And according to him, there is actually a new console being made, a handheld only console being made, but he doesn't know if it's supposed to be some sort of iteration of the Switch, if it's supposed to be some sort of new version of the Switch, because we already know one thing for a fact, guys. There is a version of the Switch right now in Japan being sold that's just a Switch, and you don't get the dock. It's supposed to work as some sort of only, you know, it's kind of like, how do I say this properly? It's supposed to be just like an extra unit, perhaps. You don't have to buy the full price, you know, full price console with the dock and stuff. So, you know, you can just buy it like that and, you know, whatnot. So that's one thing I want to just bring up here. You know, you can buy it separately. The thing, though, is the 3DS and the DS, you know, lineup, the handheld lineup, have been some of the most successful things for Nintendo for the longest time, right? They sell a lot over time. Pokemon is made to be on handheld. That's where it's always been, and that's where it's like thrived the most, right? That's where it made most of its money. Now it's also on a handheld still, which is the Nintendo Switch. But the thing with the Nintendo Switch, though, is it does have a little bit of a lack in a few areas when it comes to the handheld capabilities of it. One of those areas is the fact that it doesn't, how do I say this properly? It requires to be quite large. Like, if I was actually to take out my Switch here, which I don't know where I put it. Oh, here we go. So if I was to take out my Switch, you see, it's pretty large, you know what I mean? Some people would say, oh no, it's small, it can fit in the pocket. No, it does not properly fit in a pocket, right? It's good though, it's still small, it's perfect, you can actually take it around in a backpack and stuff. It's great, but it's not a DS or a 3DS. It doesn't actually, you know, it doesn't end up being as easily, you know, carryable as when it comes to the other devices. Plus, also, when charging it, it's a bit more complicated, you know, because you need to, like, actually have a case and stuff, and it's a bit complicated, but you get the point. Besides that, though, the console is great. I love the Switch. It is one of my favorite consoles ever. It's just fantastic. So, I want to kind of discuss right now, and we're going to go into Game Freak and their, you know, some information about them now having influence for Pokemon Go into their 2019 game. You know, going to talk about that a little bit. But here's the thing about the 3DS, though, right? the 3DS is one of the most successful consoles they've had. Like, the 3DS, the DS, those did so amazing. The Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced, all these. They're all really popular, and they've always been popular, and they've always sold a lot. And now the Switch is kind of in the same realm. The only difference with the Switch and a 3DS is that the Switch, it doesn't work. It has a lot of things that set it back as a handheld because you get limited because of the battery time and all that stuff. Like, there's a lot of things, pushing it a bit backwards when it comes to things. But it's a strong device, though. It really works well. So I'm wondering is, if they're going to make a new console, can they at least pull off, like, the Switch level of graphics, perhaps? But, not graphics, but, like, the level of hardware that the Switch can handle, but on another handheld device. Because I wouldn't mind that. Actually, I would really not mind if there was a new Nintendo console, a new handheld console, that specifically could handle, like, games equal to the Nintendo Switch, but also would be dedicated to handhold, you know what I mean? So it wouldn't be requiring of any, dock and stuff for charging or any of this stuff. It would just be, like, plug in a cable and, there you go, you're done. I think that would be great. I personally think that would be great. I think that would work awesome. But I also understand that, it's really not that necessary. The Switch kind of fills in these gaps. And I understand people's worries. A lot of people, you can actually see down here what people say here. Andy said, I hope not. The Switch literally is both a console and handheld. They should just focus on that and put out great games. And then, people say they hope it's an iteration. It'll be immensely disappointed to see what the game splits between platforms again. And if not, Pokemon would stay on Switch, or would it downgrade? If it already exists, the Pokemon company would know and not release it on the Switch, but it's probably an iteration of the Switch. Exactly, they've already said the 2019 game will be the Switch exclusive, so it's very likely a new iteration of Switch, possibly handheld, only cheaper. So that's what I'm thinking as well. Is I think that if there were to make another kind of handheld, it would probably be some sort of new version of the Switch, or some sort of, like, light version of the Switch, like something that's just, like, handheld only, which means I could assume we'd get something that wouldn't have the Joy-Cons, but rather, if we take the look at, like, the Switch itself here, instead of having the Joy-Cons, we'd only have the screen, and then, like, the controllers themselves would actually essentially cut off the Joy-Cons, and this would be the size of it. This, like, actual screen would be the size of it, and you'd have the controllers on the sides there, like, on the actual screen, so to say. I'm explaining this way too confusingly. My point is, I don't think they're gonna make a brand new, like, 3DS or 2DS or whatever. Like, I love these things. I love them, but they really don't look great, in graphics and stuff, and they really limited some franchises like Pokemon to really, improve their graphics and iterate into better ways. That was a huge problem for them, but now they've been able to move over to a better console that can handle more. But I'm thinking, if they use the technology from the Switch, the actual hardware of it, and maybe even upgrade the hardware, because keep in mind, hardware gets better and better as time goes on. I'm seeing some really badass computers that essentially fit in a like a square box, and it's like a beast computer in like a tiny little square box. I've seen some crazy stuff happening when it comes to technology, and I wouldn't really not be surprised if they could pull off some mad things to make at least a handheld smaller, but also be able to handle exactly as much as this handheld can handle. I think that is possible. Now, the biggest worry right now for people is, if they're working on a specific handheld, that could be very troublesome, because they could put, they could split their focus in a bad way, where basically they're not focusing on the Switch, but they're putting more time into this other thing, and they're not really gonna, focus on that. But here's the thing, though, guys. I don't think this console is anything we're gonna see anytime soon. I think we have enough time, before this thing actually comes out, or if it even happens, because it could be cancelled. Keep in mind, there is a chance this could be cancelled. We still have a long time to go before that actually, is a thing we should worry too much about. Let's just, for now, stay on the low. Let's just stay calm and not get too freaked out, because I think we'll be fine. I don't think this is going to be a huge issue. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I don't think it's going to, really create any issues either. So, for now, I will just say, let's just stay easy on it. But there's another thing I want to bring up, and that is this right here. So, Game Freak confirms the 2019 games will not be influenced by Pokemon Go. During the press conference, Game Freak confirmed they've been working on the 2019 Switch game since before Switch's release, so they will not be affected by Pokemon Go. This is amazing, okay? So before the Switch came out, they had already started working on this in the 2019 game, which confirms my theory that this game has been in development for about 4 or 5 years, or actually 4 years to give or take. So yeah, it's been in development for 4 years now. Essentially, by the time it releases in 2019, it will have been in development for over 4 years, which means anybody who says that this game that we're going to be getting is not going to be on the same level as something like Breath of the Wild or whatever, like, yeah, sure, well, the Breath of the Wild is like it's a different game. It isn't Pokemon. It's Breath of the Wild. It's Legend of Zelda, right? It's different. But I think we can expect a really good looking game. I'm not expecting like hyper realistic graphics, but think of like Ni no Kuni, think of like Dragon Quest 11, and I think these games that like really look great, but in these cartoony, like, you know, more Pokemon styles, you know what I mean? This is more like, you know, friendly style that isn't like super hyper realistic and, you know, kind of grungy. It's colorful and beautiful and good graphics. That's what I'm assuming from this game, and we can continue for, you know, whatever, you know, through a little bit more of this info here. So for those who are worried about how this affects the series moving forward, or for others who wanted some of the features to be incorporated in future games, it looks like it'll be business as usual. Edit. They also made an interesting comment on how Let's Go was primarily designed as home console games, whilst the 2019 games will have a more of an emphasis on the handheld experience, and the 2019 game is what they see as their way to move to the handheld experience forward. I have no idea what this could hint at, but I'm excited at the ideas they'll come up with and grow the Pokemon experience on the new console. So this is what I want to bring up. This is my biggest point, right? So this is something I remember them saying specifically, that the Let's Go games are supposed to be more like designed specifically around the idea of playing with the Joy-Cons like this, you know what I mean? Like, you know, just using the Joy-Cons and, you know, playing with like one Joy-Con and just having a good time, throwing Pokeballs, and using the actual, you know, your TV and stuff to play through the game, right? That's what they want you to do there. They don't want you to really play it in the handheld mode, even though you can probably. They want you to rather play with your, you know, with the actual home console aspect of it. But the 2019 game, that's different, because and here's how the split works now. I finally comprehend the split between Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon, you know, main series core games, right? I understand the split now. The Let's Go games are intended to be for those who want to play on the home console itself, on your TV, and that's the main purpose. The handheld experience is supposed to be the way it's been always, the way it's always been, but now it's just going to be better graphics and better looking and more features. That's all it's going to be. Now we just have a stronger console to handle it in handheld. That's all it means. So now the question is, how does this affect Pokemon? This new console that they're working on. How does that affect Pokemon? Because we know for a fact now, we're going to keep getting Pokemon games on the Switch that are home console games, aka the Let's Go series. You know, that's a side thing now. That's a side series. That's going to be getting its iterations always on the Switch. But I'm wondering about this main series games, the way, you know, we're, you know, assuming to see, you know, this 2019 game and the future ones. Will those, I mean, I'm not talking about the 2019 ones specifically now, but the future ones, will those, like, main series core games, like the 2019 games, will they potentially eventually move over to just be on the new version of, like, their handheld? Like, whatever it may be, like the 4DS or whatever. I'm just making up a joke right now, but you get the point. Like, will they move them over to that? And will that console be able to handle the same levels as the Switch? Because I think it will. Here's the thing, right? The Switch now is powerful enough to do it. The Switch now is proof that we can play HD, good-looking games, like shit like Breath of the Wild, on a handheld device. Of course, it's a bit, you know, it gets, you know, it could be a bit heavier than a, actually, no, I mean, yeah, it's actually about the same, like, heaviness, like, slightly heavier than a 2DS. Like, in general, though, they are about the same, you know, weight. If you actually take off the Joy-Cons, you know what I mean, like this, hey, you actually end up being, you know, around the same weight. Again, this is slightly heavier because it is bigger. It has more hardware in it. It is generally larger than the actual 2DS. You know what I mean? It is generally larger than it. Of course, you know, this is from that side. But, you know what I mean? It's generally speaking just larger. My point is that I think what we're going to be getting ourselves is a version of the Switch, or maybe not a version of the Switch, but like, you know, a kind of like new DS, but it's going to use the same hardware as this thing. And what that's going to mean for us is that we're going to be able to play Pokemon games that are main series games, that are the ones that we played in the past, the same way we've always done it, but on a maybe dedicated, you know, new console rather than the Switch itself. Where on the Switch instead, we'll be getting more Let's Go games, which will be more for the casual audiences and for a home console experience. I think that's what they're going for, and actually, I don't think I mind that. I actually wouldn't mind that. I think that actually would be good for Pokemon. Also, sorry about background noise. Somebody's like, you know, somebody's like cutting the grass and stuff. But either way, or mowing their lawn. There we go. So either way, what I want to get across though is that I don't think this should worry us too much. I think too many people freaked out about this specifically. Some people are saying like, no, we don't need another handheld. We don't need a new handheld, you know, successor to the 3DS. I think we could use that. I think that wouldn't be too bad. Of course, that could be a good option for people who don't want to buy a full-on Switch. Maybe it's too expensive for them, or maybe they just don't want to have it, or, you know, whatever it may be. Or maybe people want to have a specific handheld console where they can play specifically handheld games. hey, they could do that. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll just have to wait and see. I don't find any issues with that myself. As someone who owns way too many Nintendo consoles at this point, I'm fine with it. I own essentially every game console that, you know, I can potentially get from different companies, whether it be Sony, Xbox, whatever. I love them all, and I enjoy playing on them all. So my only grievance with this is I hope it doesn't, like, you know, take away too much from the Switch and ruin the Switch's potentials, because right now it's doing good. It just needs more games. It needs way more games. It has a lot of games right now, but it needs even more. I want to see more, like, third-party games in this thing. I want to see way more of those. I want to see, you know, those games that they promised us last E3 and stuff, and we already know that they already, and I'm going to do another video on this, they actually said, Kimishima himself said, that there is actually more games that Nintendo hasn't revealed during E3 that are going to be revealed in the coming months for the Switch, for the autumn time, or like for the, you know, the second half of the year now. So I'm excited, guys. Either way, let me know your thoughts about all this, guys. You know, check out, you know, the links in the description down below if you want to check out all this on your own. And thank you so much for watching, guys. My name is Ruffle Rowlet. Have a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.